guys, it's time to sit back, relax, and watch another episode of sort of obscure toy lines. Let's start this week off with Mattel's Mastercaster from 1979. The Mastercaster was a safe oven for children to use that would melt down pucks of wax to make a mold of a dinky or a car. Basically, they would give you two plastic molds. You would melt the wax, pour it into the mold with the wheels at the bottom, obviously. When it cooled, you'd have a car that was made to your specifications. You could also add stickers and decals to it, and the best part is you could pull the wheels off and melt down the wax again to make a whole different car if you had another mold. The molds, or slabs, came in 5 different varieties altogether. A viewer request, Creepy Crawlers by Mattel, TOYLINES, and Jakks Pacific, 1964 to the present. Creepy Crawlers is an activity toy made by Mattel beginning in 1964. The toy consisted of a series of die-cast metal molds resembling various bug-like creatures, where you poured a liquid chemical substance known as plastigoop, which came with assorted colors. The mold was then heated to about 400 Fahrenheit in an open-face electric hot plate oven. The plastigoop is cured by the heat and when cooled formed semi-solid rubbery replicas which could be removed from the mold and played with. After being out of circulation for quite a few decades, Creepy Crawlers were back, but this time with Toy Biz. Over the years, Mattel had let the Creepy Crawlers brand name lapse, so Toy Biz was back with the brand Creepy Crawlers and a new oven called the Magic Maker, which was also borrowed from a 1980s product, which melted down wax granules to make window decorations. Finally, Jakks Pacific took over in 2016, using a lot of the same molds for the Creepy Crawlers, but reinventing the Magic Maker to be more of an injector mold. The oven was still used for new characters, such as the Power Rangers, SpongeBob, and Hello Kitty. Squishable, goo-filled Creepy Crawlers were also introduced in the latter half of this decade, but it never captured the imagination and popularity that it once had a few decades ago. Pog, 1992, Standpack Incorporated. Pogs, or the game Milk Cap, most probably originated from Hawaii in the 1920s. The brand name Pog originated with a dairy company that sold fruit juice in glass bottles. Underneath the cap was this small lid called a Pog cap. Pogs became pretty popular in the early 90s. They had many licensing agreements. There was Major League Baseball, the NHL, TV shows, cartoons, and obviously the hairy caveman Pog main character himself. The rules were simple enough. 2 players would play against each other, adding an equal amount of Pogs face down to a stack. The players then would take turns slamming the jammer down on top of the stack. Any Pog that was face up would be taken for that player. The jammer being a Pog made out of thick, hard plastic. The player with the most Pogs at the end of the game was the winner. And just a side note, my brother had a huge collection of Pogs. Didn't really get into it when I was a kid, but I know he had tons. The short-lived but awesome Steel Monsters by Tonka, 86 to 87. The short-lived but well-loved and still sought-after toy line Steel Monsters was made by Tonka Trucks. It only lasted for 1 calendar year but had 2 waves and 7 or 8 vehicles. Broken into the 2 groups, the good guys survivors and the bad guys marauders. Each of the vehicles had a forward and reverse driving action, and each of the characters 3 3/4 came with a comic. Very reminiscent of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Another viewer request, this is the Mego version of Planet of the Apes from 1975. The Mego company, as we all know, is the toy manufacturing company that produced a series of popular 8-inch action figures during the 1970s. They were predominantly concentrating on toys within a superhero venue. Mego also produced figures and playsets for other popular names and franchises, including Star Trek, The Wizard of Oz, and of course the Planet of the Apes. In late August 1974, the Mego company produced the line of 8-inch articulated Planet of the Apes action figures. The series included characters from the original 5 Jacobs films, as well as the Planet of the Apes television series. For the 3 years of production, there were 10 action figures, 5 Bend and Flex figures, several playsets and accessories being sold. By the late 70s, profits for the toy line had declined and production ceased. Sadly, the Mego company filed for bankruptcy and finally closed their doors and ceased production altogether by 1983. Spirograph, Hasbro, 1965 to present. Spirograph is a geometric drawing tool that produces mathematical roulette curves. It was developed by the British engineer Denny Fisher and was sold since 1965. Several variations of the sets have come out over the years, but the basic set consists of several geared wheels, and they would be interlaid with different pens and colors. Each pen and wheel combination would make a different size and shaped curve. Once complete, you'd have a hypotrichoid or epitrochoid, or your Spirograph art. The ATeam, Galoob, 1982. Hoping to strike while the iron was hot, Galoob released a toy line based off the popular television series The ATeam. Trying to distinguish themselves from what they thought was the competition at the time, G.I. Joe, they were sold in a 4-pack as opposed to the one character on a blister pack. The price was too high at the time and the members had to be sold separately soon after. Tons of vehicles, an 18-inch Mr. T action figure, as well as tons of accessories were made for the ATeam toy line. And that's going to wrap up another edition of obscure, well, sort of obscure toy lines. Now, you know how this goes, guys, if you watch any of these episodes. Down in the comments, let me know, did you have any of these toys? Did I skip one? Is there something that you want to see that should be added on an upcoming episode of Obscure Toy Lines? I'd love to hear from you guys. Until next week, take care, have a great weekend. I'm out of here.